and welcome back to another episode of the Practice Players Podcast. I would like to start off for all the listeners. I know the Knicks finally lost after the OG trade. It's a sad day, but we'll bounce back and be better. So that's my sports news. If anyone else has anything they want to add in.
Well, in brighter news, we got to witness a Michigan national championship while David is at Ohio State. Makes it that much sweeter. That's all I got.
Listen, all I know is your diploma is going to say UNLV, and I don't know how their football team's doing this year, but I hope that team up north had fun. I really do. I like seeing people happy. I hope they enjoyed it while it's lasted, because that O-line is going to be gone. Quarterback's hopefully going to be gone, and Harbaugh might be gone, but this is a basketball podcast, so Coach Asher, appreciate you joining us today.
Appreciate you guys having me. Thanks.
Just to start off, for some of the listeners who may not know you, if you just want to explain your sort of wild journey up until this point and how you ended up at Youngstown State.
Sure, man. Yeah, I'm in year 3 here as an assistant coach at Youngstown State, working for a great head coach, Jared Calhoun, in the Horizon League. Prior to here, I guess I'll start from the beginning. I got my start, which is why I got a lot of respect for you guys. As a student manager myself, I was at West Virginia University working for Bob Huggins. Was there from 08 to 13, was my entrance into college basketball. And from there, I was fortunate enough to get a graduate assistant opportunity at NC State. So I went down there, worked in the ACC for 2 years for head coach Mark Gottfried. Had a great couple of years there. Sweet 16 run. Really fortunate, worked with a great staff down there, a ton of guys that were former head coaches as assistants at the time, so was able to learn a lot. From there, I was able to get a director of basketball operations job at Siena College up in Albany, New York in the MAC conference. Spent 1 year there working for another awesome head coach in Jimmy Patsos. 1 year there, and then I was able to get to Rutgers University in the Big Ten Conference. Obviously, David, very familiar with those guys. Was there for 5 years in an operations role. And then after 5 years there, helping Coach Pike, who kind of build that program up. Was fortunate to get on at Youngstown State, where I currently am as an assistant coach.
Yeah, I don't know. Those Rutgers managers, every time we've interacted with them, I mean, it's unanimous. Like, our favorite group of guys just network with, play against. Just nicest group, obviously. Gritty, the hammering nails even goes down to them. So just want to shout them out, and my boy Danny.
Agreed. Shout out to Rutgers managers.
Yes, sir. But touching on some of the programs, I mean, at West Virginia, you made a Final Four. Rutgers, if I read correctly, you were there when they made the first tournament in like 30 years. NC State, obviously, the Sweet 16. And then last year at Youngstown, winning the conference. So in your opinion, what sort of goes into winning teams and making like those runs as special as they are?
I think there's a few things. I'd say like everyone's got to be all in, like everyone, and that's top to bottom, the head coach all the way down to the student managers. Like, if you don't have buy-in from everyone inside the program, doing the little things from, showing up early, staying late, managers being there rebounding when guys want to put the extra work in, the guys wanting to put the extra work in. I think goes literally the whole organization has to be working in lockstep in order for success to occur. If there's any people kind of stepping out of line, then it's going to make it hard for everything to flow smoothly and properly like it needs to have success.
Obviously, Bob Huggins was a huge part of that 2010 West Virginia Final Four team, but what besides that were other factors of that 2010 West Virginia Final Four team being so special?
I think the group of guys we had was really, Coach Huggins obviously is an amazing coach, Hall of Fame coach, one of the greatest of all times. He was a major part of it. But in addition to him, I think the group of guys that we had the year before in 2009, I forget exactly what seed we were. We were pretty high seed, but we lost in the first round to Dayton. And I think that really helped kind of mold what ended up being our Final Four run the following year. Because everyone, that whole offseason, that whole preseason, we had a bitter taste in our mouth. We knew we should have done better the previous year. And that kind of, created a chip on our shoulder. And I think the group of guys we had too, everyone was bought in on what their role was. everyone, we had one guy, Deshaun Butler, was kind of the star of the team, and everyone knew there was no jealousy that occurred. Like, everyone knew he was the guy. Matter of fact, I think he had a game winner against your Buckeyes that year, David. Took down Evan Turner and those guys, who was a great team. But he was the guy. I think he hit like 8 game winners that whole season. Like, he just, anytime we needed a big shot, he was the guy. Everyone knew it. And then we had other guys that were stars in their roles. Fun fact about that team is Joe Mazzulla, head coach of the Boston Celtics, was a point guard on that team. So anytime you have a guy like that too, who was literally a coach on the floor, he kind of helped get everyone in their spots. He was a defensive catalyst. And everyone else, Kevin Jones, Truck Bryant, Wellington Smith. We had a ton of Devin Ebanks, who ended up getting drafted by the Lakers. We had a ton of guys on that team that were talented. And everyone just kind of, I think the chemistry more than anything else is what helped get us to where we got to, because everyone was a star in their role.
Yeah, and that sort of segued into my next question. Obviously, having someone who's the coach of the Celtics now being on your team, was he as cerebral and sort of coach-like as a player? I know you sort of touched into it, or do you think that's something that sort of developed after the fact?
I think he was. No, I'm not going to say I'm not. I'm not going to say I'm not surprised. I mean, he's 34, 35 years old, head coach of the Boston Celtics. Like, yes, that is surprising. But if you would have told me eventually one day he's going to be a big time coach, like, I would have said, yeah, I could see that happening. Now, again, I didn't know it was going to happen quite so quick. Shout out to Joe. He's done an amazing job working his butt off, getting to where he is, and he deserves everything he's gotten. Like, he wasn't handed anything. He's worked. I mean, he grinded in the G League. He grinded at Division II level at Fairmont State. Like, he's worked for these opportunities he's gotten. But yeah, I mean, he literally. So John Beilein was the coach before Bob Huggins. A quick story for you. John Beilein was kind of famous more so at West Virginia than at Michigan. I think he did a little bit at Michigan, but for a 1-3-1 defense. Anyone who knows Bob Huggins, he's like a straight man-to-man, toughness. We're not playing zone. We're going to guard you type of coach. But Mazzulla literally convinced Bob Huggins to put in the 1-3-1 that John Beilein had been running with that most of that team the year or 2 years before Huggins got there. And Mazzulla was the one who put the 1-3-1 in. Like, during practice, he was the one, like, teach as a player. He was the one, like, teaching the slides, teaching the rotations. And so I think that just shows, Bob Huggins, his coachability. Like, this guy's a 30-year Hall of Fame coach, and he's humble enough to let his player put in something that he thought was going to work, which it did work, by the way. It's the only reason we beat Kentucky to go to the Final Four. They got DeMarcus Cousins, John Wall, Eric Bledsoe, Patrick Patterson. The only reason we beat them is because it's 1-3-1 that we had, and it kind of messed them up a little bit. But Joe was the one who fully put that in. So, Joe was the one who you could see it even as a player. Like, he was coaching the guys and putting them in the spots they needed to get in to be successful.
Coaching younger athletes in today's age, it's a little tougher than back in the day. You can just get on kids. But what are some basic non-negotiable philosophies that you have in coaching?
Great question. I think effort. Everything starts and ends with effort, which it sounds simple. That should be like obvious, but it's not always so obvious. I think you got to bring it every single day. Can't really have any bad days, especially in practice, whether you're playing, whether you're not playing in the games. Like, if you're not playing in the games, you should be treating practices like your games. And if you are playing in the games, you should be practicing harder in practice than you're going to play in games almost to make the games easy, if that makes sense. So I just think, every day, some guys, you got to be able to kind of put away when you're in those gym for those 2 hours, 2.5, 3 hours, whatever it is, hour and a half, however long you're going that day, you got to be able to kind of put away everything else in the world and just lock in and focus on what the task at hand, which is getting better, which is knowing the scouting report, knowing how to execute, the offensive plays you're running, knowing how to execute the defensive scheme that you're doing. I think just focus and effort, which really don't take any talent to do, in my opinion. I think those are two things that guys are going to miss shots. Guys are going to, blow a ball screen coverage, maybe get up late or something. That happens. But as long as you're working to get back into the play, and as long as you're working to, know where you're supposed to be and when you're supposed to be, we can deal with any mistakes as long as the focus and the effort's there.
Yeah, I love it. And, focus and effort, like you said, not skill-based whatsoever. But I feel like that's a lot harder to find, obviously, like easier said than done. Is that something like as a coach you're looking for as early as the recruiting trail, or is that something you sort of try to hound in on guys once they arrive on campus?
I think both, but I think nowadays, especially for Youngstown State, so we've been heavy on the transfer portal. It's just, every school is different. Some schools utilize it heavily, some schools don't. We've been utilizing it heavily. So for us, our recruitments are so sped up. It used to be, I remember when I first started college basketball, you started recruiting a kid his sophomore year of college. So by the time he's a freshman, you've known him for 3 years. You kind of know what makes him tick. You know who he is as a person, pretty much inside out. And by the time they're a junior, you've known this guy 6 years, senior, seven, like you've known them, you know them. These guys now, sometimes you don't know exactly what you're getting. You're recruiting a guy for a month in the portal. And for us, we've had I think 5 guys this year who are just kind of one and done. They're fifth year seniors. A lot of these kids still have the COVID year and stuff. So you recruit them for a month and you're coaching them for 8 months. So your whole like career with him is like 9, 10 months. So it's hard to really identify some of those stuff in such a short period of time. But yeah, sure. Once they get to campus, you're absolutely trying to instill that. Like everyone wants to win. Like for sure. There's no kid I've ever coached that doesn't want to win. But I can't say that everyone wants to put in the work that's required to win. Those are two very different things. And I'm not sure a lot of players realize that. Like everyone wants to win, but are you willing to, eat the right way? Are you willing to get to sleep? Are you willing to watch the film? Not just like in the film sessions. I mean, when you go home, nowadays every program in the country has Huddle. Like you can get it right on your phone. You can lay in your bed in your dorm room and watch tape. It requires really very little effort. Like I said, back in the day, I remember with DVDs and before all the digital age, like you had to come into the coach's office if you wanted to watch some tape. And that's not even hard. I'm not saying that's hard. But nowadays, it's so much easier. You don't have to, you can just literally be in your living room, be in your bedroom with your phone. You don't even need a laptop. You don't need a tablet. But having said that, how easy that is, it's still not being done at the rate in which you would think it would or should be done. So just putting in all the little stuff that goes into winning. I think that's the biggest thing that's kind of lacking right now.
For you, obviously being an assistant coach, for people listening that don't realize the challenges with that, a lot of your job has to do with being on the road, recruiting, and potentially relocating due to head coaching positions. So how have you been able to deal with that, balancing your family life with your career?
It's a great question, Daniel. It's been hard, and I'll tell you why it's hard is as I have gotten older and my family has grown. I have a beautiful wife and two boys. I have a 3.5-year-old and a 8-month-old. But so as my journey has gone, my circumstances in my personal life have changed. Like when my journey started, I was a single man. I wasn't married. Then all of a sudden, you have a wife. So okay, you have to balance, obviously spending time with her and being there for her when she needs you. And then all of a sudden you have a kid. Then all of a sudden you have 2 kids. So like the reason why it's hard to me, I think, is because it's continuously changing. It's not like once I'm figuring out one situation, like, okay, now I have another kid. Like it's having one kid is hard, but having 2 kids is really hard, and who knows if I'm done yet. We'll see how that goes. Uh, but I think what makes it hard is that it's continuously changing. So yeah, it's difficult. I mean, you guys know during the season, you really don't get very many off days. And even on your off days, if they're during the week, like you're still in the office, you're still off days aren't necessarily off days, and with recruiting, you're making phone calls and scouting, you're watching tape. So even if I'm not in the office, when I'm home, I'm generally still doing work. So it's definitely hard finding that delicate balance. But tomorrow's actually an off day. And I'm having date night with the wife. You guys will be happy to know. So it'll be good. We're pretty excited about that. I can't remember the last time we went on a date. So looking forward to that. But you gotta just work at it like anything else. You gotta manage your time. Same thing for a student athlete with academics, and they're balancing a ton of stuff too. And I don't have an academic component to my life as an assistant coach, but I have a family life, so I kind of liken it to that. You just got to be able to balance your time and prioritize what's important. And obviously, my family is very important, but as long as you kind of as long as you can balance that time and be proactive and work ahead of schedule and stuff. Like I know who all my scouts are, so if I can get work on a scout early, I'll do that. Like to be able to spend some time with my family. I don't wait until the last minute to do my work that I need to get done. So it's just like I said, it's just about balancing your time and being efficient with your time and you know it's whatever you prioritize is going to be successful. Like I said, the academics, family life, whatever you make important is going to be important. So I just try and make sure I keep that in the forefront of my mind at all times.
And probably the most hard hitting question I'm going to ask on this podcast ever, as a young married man to a younger man in myself who's recently gotten into a relationship, what is that date night for the off day looking like? Because I need some tips. And the follow up is Nate Smoot offering free babysitting services for this date night?
It's a great question. So big time restaurant here in Youngstown, Aquapazzo. Taking my wife there. Awesome Italian restaurant, probably the nicest one in town. You know it's nice because that's where we take the recruits to when they come to town. So you know
There you go.
that's how you guys know that's the spot around here. So just dinner, nothing crazy. We just found a babysitter. It's not Nate Smoot. I'll have to talk to him and check his availability moving forward. But just found a babysitter, so we're pretty boosted about that too. Because believe it or not, babysitters are not easy to find. So that was a big come up for me and the missus. We're looking forward to having a night out tomorrow night.
Nice Italian food. I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And then just to sort of wrap it up, fun little game we wanted to play here is obviously we're the practice players, and then you're Coach Asher. So we're going to take the letter P. You get the letter A, and all-time basketball coaches, we're going to draft 3 with the letter P for their last name, and then you get to draft 3 whose last name starts with A, and then we'll sort of compare our rosters.
Coaches. So
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I have to draft the coaches, and you're drafting players.
No.
You're
We're
drafting
drafting.
coaches.
Yeah, we're going to draft coaches,
Got it.
and we're going to use the letter P because the practice players podcast.
Got it.
So I guess I'll start us off. I'm going to take Coach Skip Prosser, legendary coach with Chris Paul down there at Wake Forest. Rest in peace. I think that's a good one to start off our team.
It's a good one. I'll go Tommy Amaker, Harvard coach.
With our second pick, we're going to go legendary coach Greg Popovich.
Pretty good one right there. Yeah, can't go wrong with that. Uh, so do I have to? It have to be active coaches, or it could be anyone of all time?
Anyone. All time. All time.
All right. We'll go Red Auerbach then, for Boston Celtics legend.
Yep.
For our last one, I was going to go ahead and cheat the system a little bit, Coach, and I was going to take Phil Jackson, but I feel wrong for doing that because it's not really the game. I have to pick somebody with the last name P, so I'm going to switch it up, and I'm going to go one of the best coaches currently in college basketball, Matt Painter at Purdue.
Not bad. I'm really kind of struggling right now to come up with another name, another A name that would be Popovich. You guys got some legends in yours. I guess I'll go Steve Alford, Nevada coach.
Some great years at New Mexico. That's still a very good pick.
I mean, if I had the letter A, I was going to go with Coach Asher from Youngstown State. That's just me, though.
Yeah.
That's just me.
Appreciate that, man. It means a lot.
Yeah. This was very fun. If you have anything else that you wanted to add or questions for us, if not, I think it'll be a good little time to wrap up.
Yeah, no, just, shout out to you guys, man. I listen to your pods and you guys do a great job, and I love how active you are and spreading the good word about kind of manager, practice player lifestyle, man. It's a thankless job. So I'll be the one right now to say thank you for what you guys do. I'm sure you don't hear that a lot, as much as you probably should, but I know what you guys do and how important you guys are to your programs. And so I just, thank you and keep doing a great job, man. And if you keep working hard, good things will happen to you guys. I promise.
Yes, sir. Appreciate it.
Yeah, we appreciate that.
Absolutely.
But if you've listened this far, thank you. And as always,
BPP out. Peace.